You can imagine every day when you get up to go to work, every day when you come to church, when you make that drive, when you make that commute, you have to pass a mountain. But this mountain is not just a mountain of rock and dirt. It's the mountain of 61 million bodies that have been executed post-Roe v. Wade. But you had to pass that mountain every day. You had to see the bodies, you had to smell the smell, and you had to go to work that day. And you had to go to church that day. The most important thing I want to ask you is, would you respond differently in that situation than you're responding right now to the plight of the preborn? Would it make a difference if you could see it? Because we know what's happening. It's been out of sight, out of mind. You can open your eyes. This event has been labeled for such a time as this. And most of you know this is a reference from the book of Esther. Just to give you a little bit of background, I'm sure most of you know the story of Esther. But Haman had this wicked plot to kill the Jews. And Mordecai pleaded with his cousin Esther. She was the queen, and she was also a Jew. But he pleaded with his cousin to interpose and ask the king to stop the wicked plot. But coming before the king uninvited had the penalty of death. But Mordecai said this. He told Esther, "Do not think to yourself that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silent at a time like this, relief and deliverance will rise from the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have been brought to the kingdom for such a time as this?" And of course, Esther goes on to answer the call and reveal the plot to the king, and she rescues her people. What can we take away from this? First, Esther had to count the cost. She had wealth, she had comfort, she had position, she had all these pleasures of the kingdom. It sounds kind of like, a little bit like the condition we have as Americans today. We're comfortable. Sometimes I think about, the price that the apostles had to pay with their lives, many of them, most of them. They had to pay a price. They had to count the cost. She counted the cost. What else can we take away from this? If she chose not to interpose, there would be judgment, and God would bring up someone else to deliver the Jews. Through Mordecai's pleas, Esther realized that she was in a providential moment. She was called by God in that moment to bring deliverance for her people. Brothers and sisters, I submit to you tonight, we've been called for such a time as this today. We've been called for such a time as this, with 61 million little God's creations, image bearers of God, little babies, been slaughtered in this country. We're in the midst, and I don't say this lightly, we're in the midst of the most heinous injustice in the history of mankind. 61 million in our country alone. Hundreds of millions around the world. We've been brought into the kingdom as servants of our King for such a time as this. Been thrown out in the middle of it. It's up to us to put a stop to it. Look in the mirror and say, if it's not me, who's it going to be? We are his people. We are his body. And there's a consistent theme throughout Scripture that shows that God is for the oppressed. He's for the little guy. He's for the weak and the vulnerable. There's also a consistent theme in Scripture that shows that we as his people have a duty and an obligation to respond to the oppressed. We have to do something about it.